Well, Guy Pearce in L.A. Confidential. People who see this movie who have only seen you before in Priscilla, Queen of the Desert are really in for a shock, surprise, contrast.
Good, good, good.
Is that good?
Yes. Yeah.
That was the movie, I guess, that launched you, as it were.
Well, yeah, definitely, and particularly in this country. I mean, I'd worked for about 12 years in Australia on various TV shows, and I'd done 4 or 5 other films that that obviously weren't as successful as Priscilla. So Priscilla was definitely the thing that that opened everyone's eyes.
The trajectory that takes you from your hometown, am I pronouncing it right? Geelong?
Geelong, yeah.
Geelong, Australia, to L.A. Confidential and now Toronto for interviews. Must be an interesting one. Tell us about Geelong.
Geelong is, well, it's the second largest city in Victoria. It's a very quiet, small town set on the bay, on Corio Bay. Not a great deal happens there, as the same in other small towns, I suppose. And everyone seems to, as soon as they finish school, they go to Melbourne.
I see. Lots of American films, though, growing up?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
We hear, of course, that Australian screens, at least were, maybe still are, dominated by American films. Is that true?
Yeah, well, I think the unfortunate thing about that is that a lot of Australian audiences have an insecurity about the work that is made in Australia and won't take the risk. The distributors won't take the risk on an Australian film, perhaps, until it has had some success overseas. A lot of films will get released in Australia, will last 2 days, then they'll go to the Cannes Film Festival and they'll be in competition and all of a sudden are praised highly by everybody, and then they come and they're on for 3 months in Australia. So it's a funny way that it works. It's unfortunate, but hopefully it'll pick up, I think. The industry is definitely picking up at home.
Now, obviously, L.A. Confidential is a big, big picture for you.
Yes, by far the biggest.
You're in it all the way. You're the focus, really.
I'm the guy.
Is that fair? Ed Exley.
Is it fair?
Stupid question, that one. But Ed Exley really represents an interesting type. In a way, I guess he prefigures politically correct law and order. But you have your problems with that ideal of law and order.
Oh, definitely, and that's the interesting thing about these characters is that they're not so one-dimensional. You actually slowly learn about what is really driving these guys, and Exley's perspective on things opens, and his narrow-minded view is shot to pieces, which is great, which is wonderful. He's not that knight in shining armor that he thinks he is.
This is bound to have quite an impact on viewers who maybe are either sympathetic or not sympathetic to how you administer justice, because whatever take we have, you're going to switch channels on us, as it were.
Well, sure. I mean, that's the beauty of the character, is that what I wanted to do, and obviously not just what I wanted to do, but what is created in the text, is that here is someone who is put in a position and everyone hates him. They despise where he's coming from, and until ultimately he can learn more about himself and be much more honest about himself, and see the ambiguity of what is really going on.
Personal note for you on the set. There you are inhabiting an illusion of Los Angeles that must be somewhat like the Los Angeles that you thought you knew from your boyhood movie experience.
Definitely.
What does that feel like?
Well, it was amazing. It was really stepping back in time and in culture. I mean, if you're ever going to experience a place, I mean, I'd experienced LA for the last 4 years of 1992, 3, 4, 5, and 6, whatever. But to step back into LA of the 50s through this film was a wonderful experience, and through the eyes of James Ellroy too, made it just that little bit more interesting.
Now, of course, on set, you're aware of the struts and braces and the illusion of the set making, but there must have been a moment or two with the clothes and the cars where maybe you actually could have been in 1953 L.A.
I guess so.
Fantasy, Twilight Zone experience.
Oh yeah, I guess you always slip into that as an actor. You always have to allow yourself to slip into that. So I mean, I don't particularly remember any specific moments, but to take on that feeling is something that is always interesting in any job that you do, in any film that you take.
Is this whole experience with the interviews, Toronto here at the festival, is all this pretty new to you?
Oh no, I've done press junkets before for other films. We did the whole thing with Priscilla a number of years ago, and I've certainly done it with other films in Europe and stuff. So I'm kind of used to it, as used to it as you can be, I guess.
Well, already you're demonstrating amazing range.
Good.
That's for sure. Guy Pearce, pleasure to meet you.
Thank you very much.
He's Ed Exley in LA Confidential, and we're in Toronto. I'm John Tibbetts for KCTV5.